Starks was the little guy that the crowd related to.
A standing ovation welcoming back John Starks.
John Starks personified New York.
He just played hard. Also a little crazy, too.
John Starks, unconscious here.
He definitely understood where he came from. He was just like, I'm going to live this day like it's my last. He was just fearless.
John Starks.
Starks played the kind of game that we all wish we played in the playgrounds. He really always took it to the hilt.
Erratic, dramatic, acrobatic, charismatic.
Starks for three.
We've seen him be always a guy making that pivotal play and flaunting it, dancing off the court, tantalizing guys up in their face, you know, always making the threes, pulling his shirt. So he was very animated on the court, very provocative type of player.
I came to the game prepared to win at all costs, and that's my whole mindset. I'm going to go in there and play like a tiger. I'm going to do everything I can out there on the court to help this team win, whether it's diving for balls, doing whatever.
In the heat of competition, John Starks was going to do whatever it took to get respect and to win.
An unconquerable spirit lifted John Starks to NBA stardom. His fearless nature was an inevitable byproduct of a troubled youth in Oklahoma.
North Tulsa was a very tough city. It's really a Wild West type of scenario. Anything could happen.
It was 7 of us. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and my mother and my grandmother. So we had beds stacked to the ceiling, and so we all had to squeeze in like sardines at night. My mother, she was a tough lady.
Unfortunately, she had a lot of run-ins with different men in her life who beat her.
Seeing what she had to go through and all the, battles that she had to deal with in her personal life, from physically being abused, it makes you see things in a different light.
His mother was that role model that he got, that tenacious quality, but his older brother was the one who really toughened him up, and John and he really went after each other on the playground.
Monty was the guy who kind of pushed me, but he used to beat me up, elbow me, and I used to take it. Eventually, one day I came in the gym, and I told myself enough, and I ended up whooping his tail.
That kind of fearlessness that you saw with John was really a lot of the, aftermath of what happened with John on the court with his brother Monty.
Starks' competitive spirit was apparent early on, but a self-destructive streak led the talented guard on a dizzying basketball odyssey.
My first stop was at Rogers State Junior College. Got in trouble for breaking in another person's room and stealing their boombox. And I went up to Northern Junior College. Me and 3 of my teammates was in there, smoking marijuana, and ended up getting kicked out of school there.
Perpetually unsettled, Starks bounced around 4 different Oklahoma junior colleges in 4 years. Desperate, he sought change.
I can remember one night, and I told myself, and I got on my knees and I prayed, and I asked God to take me out of the situation that I was in. And no sooner than that, the next day, it seemed like things just started happening for me. I enrolled in school, and I got a job at Safeway, making $3.35 an hour. So I ended up doing that at nighttime and do things in school at the same time.
Safeway really shaped him. He realized if I can work this hard at a Safeway, when he got his chance playing basketball, there's no decision that he had to make that he wasn't going to work hard.
Undeterred by previous missteps, Starks refocused his energies and earned a basketball scholarship to Oklahoma State University.
Here comes Starks again on the fast break. Yes, Johnny Starks.
I told myself, if I'm going to have an opportunity to make it, I'm going to have to play at the Division I level, even if it is for 1 year.
Larry Brown was coaching at Kansas when John played his 1 year at Oklahoma State. Saw John play, and John wasn't drafted by anybody when he came out of college, but Larry Brown liked him.
Larry Brown liked what he saw in me. You know, he liked tenacity.
Brown, the newly appointed Spurs head coach, invited Starks to training camp as a free agent.
He just missed making that team, but then Don Nelson gave him a chance at Golden State. He got into Golden State.
I was like, wow. You know, I'm working at Safeway, making $3.35 an hour, playing street basketball, intramural basketball, and all of a sudden I'm in the NBA in 2 years. It's funny how things work out. I just came out of nowhere. I had in my mind that if I get an opportunity, there's no way I'm coming back home, period.
I've been in the Garden a lot of times. I don't know if I've ever heard a louder roar than that night.
Well, that's one poster shot that I got. That's a famous shot.
John Starks battled his way into the NBA despite tremendous odds in 1988. But he was cut by the Warriors after just one season and found himself in basketball's minor leagues.
Don Nelson said, this kid's too wild to play in the NBA.
I said, eventually my time's gonna come again, and when it do, I'm gonna be ready.
That time came when the Knicks invited him to training camp prior to the 1990-91 season.
It was the last day, and I felt that, you know, I may, get cut. And so I said, I'm gonna come in here and show these coaches that I want to stay.
He tried to go in and jam over Patrick Ewing in a practice.
He caught my dunk, and I came down and twisted my knee. It was kind of like a blessing in disguise because you can't cut you if you're injured. And I'm like, oh, okay, I accept this injury.
Once he got his foot in the door, he never let it get kicked out.
From his earliest days in a Knick uniform, he set out to prove he belonged.
My first game, I was so hyped. People said, was you scared? I said, no, because I had played Michael over in my mind so many times. I had played him one-on-one.
Starks comes in, and John Starks is a player they activated yesterday.
He looked at me. He like, before the night is over, you're going to be calling me Mr. Jordan.
Stops the dribble, plays it into Jordan. Starks steals the ball, falls out of bounds with it.
He didn't have anything to lose. No one knew who he was to begin with. He took that as his personal challenge.
Jackson on the drive, ahead to Starks. He lays it up. Good. John Starks' first 2 points.
I end up, playing well that game. And after the game, I walked up to him. I said, he's going to get Mr. Jordan out of me tonight. My confidence level just shot up.
By the Knicks. Off the steal. Starks.
He knew he had this chance, and he was going to make the most of it. He just treated the Garden like his own personal stage.
Shot clock down to one. Starks. Starks hits a three-pointer.
Playing in the mecca of basketball and to be able to be a contributor to the team's success, it was a dream world in a sense.
Starks had finally found a home. In his second season in New York, he thrived under a new coach and a style of play that suited him perfectly.
The 90 team under Riley was physical. The Oak Man, Ewing, Starks was the guy out front.
Here's John Starks.
When Coach Riley came, he put a lot on my shoulders.
We had the persona, team-wise, of a nasty physical team, and that's exactly what John Starks was.
He wasn't the most refined person on the floor, but he was trying. And I think in New York, that goes a long way.
Fans identify with the underdog. John Starks was bagging groceries, out of CBA, and just played hard. Also was a little crazy, too.
Look out, tripped to Starks upset.
He was just so passionate about the game. Sometimes maybe it kind of worked to the negative where you get teed up.
His loss of control will send him to the bench.
He would just lose it sometimes.
It's a flagrant 2.
His headbutt of Reggie Miller in the playoffs was inopportune, but again, you can't separate the bad from the good with people. You have to accept it all. And the overall package of John Starks was unquestionably positive.
Starks had already become a fan favorite in New York. In the spring of 1993, he became a legend.
And the Knicks lead remains at 3. We're down to 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Game 2, 1993 series, Chicago was coming back. John having the ball out there on the left side, and everybody thinks he's going to play, giving the ball to Patrick.
I saw B.J. Armstrong every time I shift my eyes and he knew a pick was coming from Patrick. He would jump to my high side.
John Starks breaks loose at the 7th Avenue end of the Garden.
I'm like, you got to go in strong. And I just jumped as hard as I could.
Horace Grant kind of steps up, and Jordan pops in there too. And Starks just went over both of them and threw it down.
Starks. Yes. What a move by Starks, who was able to sky.
Just the audacity of that move was breathtaking.
I've been in the Garden a lot of times. I don't know if I've ever heard a louder roar than that night.
Being the undersized guy, being the underappreciated guy, being the guy who came out of nowhere, the guy who didn't go to a big college program. It was such a quintessential New York moment.
Well, that's one poster shot that I got as a famous shot.
Starks for 3. Yes. John Starks.
Oh, man. I was having a great series.
Starks unleashing. Hits the 3. Starks has terrorized the Rockets in the 4th. The Chicago Bulls have defeated the New York Knicks to take this grueling series.
In 93, it was very disappointing to us because we felt that we had the team. For whatever reason, we just didn't get it done.
Following the disappointment of the previous season, the Knicks entered the 1993-94 campaign on a mission.
In 94, the Knicks were a serious contender for a championship. I think he was ready and showed that he was ready.
Starks, now among the game's elite, was named to the 1994 Eastern Conference All-Star team.
Starks for 3, and a big tray it is for John Starks with 9.
Starks making the All-Star team in 94 was pretty crazy.
It was like a combination of all the work that I put into it and the dreams that I had.
For him to go from literally nowhere less than 5 years before to the biggest stage, was pretty remarkable.
As the season continued, Starks' focus shifted to the playoffs. But just 1 month before the postseason was set to begin, he suffered a severe knee injury in Atlanta.
When I tore my knee up in 94 against Atlanta, I can remember the doctors told me I could be back in 6 weeks. I said I'm going to be back before then. I was convinced that I was going to be back for the playoff.
A standing ovation welcoming back John Starks.
He always came back earlier than expected. So I wasn't surprised when he did make it back. It took him a little while to get back in the groove, and then he really had a very good playoff run.
John Starks drives to the baseline, lets it go! John Starks is back!
He, started to contribute more and more. Certainly against Indiana in the East Conference Finals, he played a major role.
Clean up. Starks for 3.
They mirrored us in a lot of ways. They try to play defense. They try to be physical. John Starks and Reggie, it was a battle.
Here's Starks. John Starks with the ball. The New York Knicks headed to the NBA Finals to go up against the...
Emboldened by a dramatic win over Indiana, Starks and the Knicks jumped out to a 3-2 advantage over the Houston Rockets in the 1994 NBA Finals.
Oh, man. I was having a great series.
In game 1 of that series, he had a bad game, but then the next 5 games, he scored more than 20 points in each game.
In Game 6, the Knicks were down, I think, double figures in the second half, and they had put on a furious comeback.
Starks for 3. Yes. John Starks. Starks unleashing. Hits the 3. Starks has terrorized the Rockets in the 4th. John Starks keeping the Knicks alive at
Starks' fourth quarter heroics put the Knicks on the brink of a championship.
Foul again. 6:10 seconds to go. Rockets lead by 2. Here is Starks.
I would not be surprised to see John Starks take a three-point shot here.
John's got the ball, and he's got the option to drive to the hole with Patrick as a trailer or shoot outside.
Akeem was guarding Patrick, and I came off, and I did a step back, and I thought I had cleared him.
Rockets do not want a foul. Starks for 3.
That shot felt so good. I just knew it was money, and he just got his fingertips on it.
Came up short. The game is over, and it will go to a 7th and decisive game on Wednesday.
They had a 3-day layover between Game 6 and Game 7, so he said he just sat in his hotel room the whole time just thinking about the game and working himself up into the fervor. He didn't even sleep the night before the Game 7.
A matter of us coming out and proving to everybody else, we're proving to ourselves that we're a much better team than Houston.
Welcome to the summit for Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
For me, when I have to think about something too long and you want it so bad, you don't go out there and play a relaxed game.
Here's Starks. Rockets with a 1-point lead. Here's Starks.
I think I was just rushing more so than anything, you know. Just too quick on my release.
Starks again for 3.
You get to Game 7 and your shots aren't going down. If you're a shooter, what do? Well, you keep shooting.
It was torture. It was torture. Watching John die, you know, with his shooting.
Here's Starks.
Oh, it definitely was a nightmare because you dream about playing in these type of games. It just didn't happen for me that particular night. There was no point in the game where guys are telling me stop shooting the ball. You know what I mean? Because they know my MO. They know one shot can get me going real quick.
John Starks having another good look, and this thing falls about 5 feet short as nobody appeared to hit his arm, and it's just been unbelievable.
That was who he was. He always remained confident. No matter what he was shooting, he thought he was hot, and he would get hot.
John Starks never knew about fear. He was thinking something good's going to happen because he had always seen something good happen after all the torment that he went through as a kid.
He's supposed to be in the Garden. I mean, he's a Knick. People will always welcome him because he was a reflection of New York, of the fans.
Everybody sacrificed to end the season, you know, hopefully with a championship, but we came up short.
Every now and then I have a guy who come up, John, Game 7. It's always going to be linked to me.
He's paying the price. I've been with him a few times, and people come out of the clear blue, man, and start yelling 2 for 18. You know, it's pretty cool.
Game 7 and the dunk probably share equal prominence. It's almost like those, it's like the theater masks. It's like the laughing and crying thing. You know, it's like you've got that yin and yang balance with him.
John has sort of had to carry a cross, but anyone that was with that team that whole season knows John Starks didn't have the year he had. The Knicks don't even get close to playing in Houston in the 3rd week in June.
A lot of his critics still talk about that particular game, but that's John Starks. If he was, you know, losing confidence after doing it that way, he wouldn't have been in the NBA.
His gritty determination was on display yet again when the Knicks signed Allen Houston in 1996, relegating Starks to the bench.
John was the first guy to welcome me in the Knicks practice facility. Gave me a big hug, said, man, welcome.
Here's Houston for 3. Yes!
When Allen first came here, I felt that it was an opportunity for us to, you know, get to a championship because I knew that he was a great scorer from playing against him. And so I wanted to welcome open arms and broke the ice between us. You know, we're good friends to this day.
Starks' career had been about, you know, having things and having them taken away from him and having to fight his way back to those things. So for Starks, I'm sure it wasn't a totally new experience.
His attitude was, I'm going to go out and be the 6th man of the year, which he was.
What that shows people is that the unselfishness that you have to have in order to, play at this level at times. When I was traded to Golden State, it was disheartening, because that's why I plan on ending my career here in New York.
Though no longer with the team, his place in the hearts of Knicks fans was unmistakable when he returned to the Garden to watch a playoff game in 1999.
I'm sitting up there watching it in the tunnel, and all of a sudden the camera panned on me and the crowd just erupted. The emotions that was going, it took everything to hold back the tears. You could see it in my eyes, I was watering up. That right there showed me that they appreciated what I brought to the table.
Starks' playing days ended after stints in Chicago and Utah. From there, he set about imparting the lessons learned from his journey through the John Starks Foundation.
I think sometimes, the young people out there, they get sidetracked because of what their environment may consist of, or that, they don't see themselves being successful. And I tell them, success comes with a vision. I wanted to be a professional basketball player at a young age. Obviously, my route was a lot different than any other player that came through here, but the vision was there, and I was steady even though I was going through all my trials and tribulations. Basketball was my driving force in keeping me focused.
These days, Starks is back home at Madison Square Garden, working in alumni relations and fan development.
I love what I do. I love to be out mingling amongst people.
He's supposed to be in the Garden. He's a Knick. People will always welcome him because he was a reflection of New York, of the fans. He came from working his butt off.
You have a guy who had been bagging groceries years before starting and playing huge roles for this team and getting into the finals, and being an all-star, winning Sixth Man of the Year. He really went from nothing to something.
You don't realize how much effect that you have on people's lives, and I get notes, from kids, I get notes from adults that say thank you for your hard work and your perseverance. Whenever you can inspire people to do their best in life, that's what it's all about.